Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Ravindra Pandey, who is a retired lieutenant colonel from the Indian Army. And he is also a recent MBA graduate in 2024. So congratulations to him. But we're going to dive into a little bit of what does logistics and warehousing and supply chain look like on the military side, and specifically in the Indian military. We're also going to talk to him a little bit about what he thinks is going on from his perspective in the industry, and also a little bit too on the India industry as well, specifically. So, Ravi, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for a great introduction. And I'm doing well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and excited to get you on here, and definitely interested to talk about this because it's something that we haven't quite touched on, but I think it's important to talk about, how logistics is involved in the military aspect, because that's essentially where logistics kind of was born, right? Was out of the military. So very interested to dive into this with you. But why don't we kick it off? Tell us a little bit about your background and how you kind of ended up in the supply chain side of things.
Right. So, I mean, I joined military in sometime in 2001 immediately after I completed my Bachelor of Science and I graduated. And by the time I completed my studies, I was already through for the military uh, to become an officer. So January 2001, I joined, and then after we had like formal rigorous training of 18 months in Indian Military Academy, uh, and I got commissioned into Infantry Regiment of Indian Army. So last 21 years thereafter, I moved to multiple locations within and outside
Mm,
India and looking after the domains of operations, supply chain, logistics, strategy planning. So these, uh, from the military perspective, generally you don't just focus on area. It's a very
mhm,
widespread domain you have to look after, and as an infantry officer, as a leader, you have the responsibility of looking after your troops. So their HR aspects, then their logistic aspects, and then you have to also plan your battle. So everything is involved in this. And so during these years, then I also worked for United Nations in Sudan in
mm,
2009-10 for a year plus. That was when the civil war broke out there, and there were a lot of disturbances when the UN stepped in.
yeah.
So I had got deputed there for a year plus. And then I also worked for DRDO, which is Defense Research Development Organization, a premier organization in India for military hardware development and manufacturing. So I was with them for more than 3 years, and though my relation continued even after that, but then uh, physically I was there with them for almost 3 years plus. Then during these, I also did a lot of trainings in logistics and supply chain because of the roles which I handled. And
Mm,
then I did postgraduate diploma in my PGDM in HR and operations management from Civil University, Symbiosis in India. And then after my retirement, I came here to Boston and joined Hult International Business School for MBA and graduated last year in August. So I got into supply chain quite early in my service because of the role I was
yeah.
here. And there is a very interesting story also. Like even though like I was looking after the management of my team, which was around 200 people, but then
Mhm.
after one of the training program, I was returning back to my base and I slipped on my bike. I broke my collarbone, got
Oh.
hospitalized, and so when I came back after a couple of days, since I could not take the active duty, so I was
Mhm.
put into the logistics and supply chain to look after the complete aspect of that, and that is where I actually formally got introduced to supply chain uh,
Mm.
as a responsibility. and looking after a team of more than 1,000 plus. So
Oh wow.
wherein like you are responsible for transportation, the logistics, the equipment, the ammunition, weapons, ensuring that everything from the your rear echelons, they come to you, and then you distribute them to the further ahead where the troops are deployed on the in the battlefield. So that's how my formal introduction to supply chain started. And
Mm,
we started looking after the warehousing of everything, and demanding and ensuring that everything, all the requirements are met well in time, because a lot of things are at stake. There is a saying that army marches on stomach, so you have to ensure that the logistics are taken care of,
yeah.
so that people are not left fending for themselves.
Mm. Interesting there, and it's interesting. It sounds like you know you kind of literally fell into supply chain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I think that.
that was an eye opener also. Like you
Mm,
don't realize the how big the supply chain is till the time you really start
yeah.
handling that, and starting with small procurements, and then going up to like $1 million deals, handling all those things.
Mm,
And then you have to ensure the safeguarding, the safe transportation of uh, all the purchases, and then it has to be warehoused in a way that you don't lose anything because of
mm,
mishandling. So a lot of things are at stake in that. How much money is involved,
yeah.
you realize only after that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, the supply chain, for those that like are not familiar and then get into it, like I think, they'll have that same reaction as you. It's like, wow, this is like touching very, very many things, right? So, so tell us a little bit, I guess, from the military perspective, because, if we work in, say we work for a company that ships mattresses, right? We're only dealing with mattresses, right? Maybe there's some accessories or something like that. But for the military, I mean, there's a lot of different things that need to be handled through the supply chain, right? So tell us kind of, I guess, what is the military handling like through the supply chain, and what types of things are, coming through those warehouses, and what did you have to, facilitate the movement and storage of?
So military is like it's a self-sufficient organization. So it has to ensure that you have everything needed to survive on Earth. So starting
Mm,
with the ration, water. I mean, these are the two primary things which cannot be have a substitute with. If you need ration to survive, you need to have ensure that it is reaching the last man. Similarly, is the
yeah.
water, the transportation of water or the supply of water has to be ensured. And the military, as you're aware, like it operates in a very remote areas. So these two primary things has to be planned in a way, and these things go back to like starting with the staple foods. Like in India, we generally are more vegetarian kind of population. So
Mm, right.
rice, lentils, they become the basic necessities. And then so these are the bulk purchases which is done for the complete like 1.4 million employees, the military strength which is there.
Mm,
And they are transported to various echelons, the storage echelons across the country, depending on the locations where the troops are deployed, so whether it is the north of India or the south of India. And so we have like kilometers and kilometers of warehouses for that. So they are divided into various zones, and then
mm,
from there, as per the requirements or as per the the planning, how much quantity is to be kept at the last man, how much quantity is to be kept in the various stages backward. So this the supply chain, the transportation plan flows in that way. So the trucks, suppose the transportation is the both by trains as well as trucks. So
mm,
the trains carry the bulk of the load till where the rail head is there, and thereafter trucks take on. And also, like because of the trains take more time because of the priority at the national level. There are passenger trains running on the same track. Then there are other, the industrial things which are also moving across.
mm,
So the transportation by train takes more time than transportation by trucks. So the both train. That's why it's like multiple channels which is used. So you we do transportation by the trucks also, and also by the train. Trucks we know that will take say 10 days to reach the destination. Trains will take say 30 days. So we plan accordingly based on the requirements at a specific locations. And so from the base logistic nodes, they are step forward to the regional logistic nodes.
mm,
There again the storage and handling is done. Now and then depending on the requirements in the forward area, they are further moved ahead. Then most of the transportation is done in trucks. It can be
mm,
military trucks thereafter, or it can be civil trucks. So both are used depending on the situations and the requirements. If there is an emergency requirement, then of course the military trucks are used for the transportation because then they go straight to the base where it is needed. If it is civil
mm,
trucks, then they can't go beyond a certain limit. So then again, transshipment has to be done at some point. So just to avoid
mm,
that, for the emergency movements, we use the military trucks, which reach the last location, and this and the civil trucks they come to the nearest warehouse where they can be stored for whatever duration uh, it is required. So so the whole thing is like I mean it's a humongous I would say uh, sorry I'm taking a break here. Yeah. So it's a humongous network which is working around the clock
mm,
to ensure that these rations and all these items. Similarly, then it comes to the other equipments like weapons, their ammunitions, which is again the
yeah,
bulk of the transportation and the storage. Then we have the logistics, like maintenance equipments for the trucks which we use, or the weapons maintenance equipments. So all these items also has to be stage forward almost in a similar way. So every the basic structure is same. It's only that the use is maybe or the equipment may be different. So even the
mm,
like weapons are again like they also move in the similar kind of system, the network, and only they are more rigorous. I mean, they're more difficult in the sense that you can't just show off a weapon while carrying them. So you need to ensure that adequate steps are taken, that people are not aware that the weapons are moving. All those.
mm,
So it has to. Those movements are a little secretive. Only very specific teams are handling those, and which is not known to rest of the the echelons on the way. So
interesting.
it's only in the when it reaches a particular location, then when the people there come to know, okay, the weapon and ammunitions have come
Mm,
from the previous stage. So uh, of course, the leadership will always be aware about such movements, but not everybody. It's need to know basis basically.
mm,
Then the equipments is bedding, you have more equipments like individual kits, etc. So those have another cycle of basically uh, transportation, but then the basic structure again, what I said earlier, it remains the same. It's only
mm,
the importance and how much necessity is there of handling those, how much criticality is there to handle those equipments.
mm. Interesting. Yeah, it's such a wide range of items, and like different things of how you have to handle them and things like that. I mean, and it's very interesting there. I didn't think about, I realize, obviously you would have to move some type of ammunition and, weapons and things like that. But I didn't think about, the complexity there in terms of, having to keep some of those movements secret, right? I guess because, you're at risk of, a bad actor wanting to
Yeah.
hijack one of those trucks or something, right? So, very interesting there. Would you say, like, out of all of the things that you're responsible for, or that the military has to move, I mean, is that the most challenging part of it, or is there something else that's more challenging?
No, I mean, yeah, of course, weapons and equipments are definitely the most challenging because it requires extra care in handling those, plus the secrecy. But
Mm,
just imagine, like, even ration becomes also important because, for say, for example, like there are say 100 people dependent on some ration which is to come up.
mm,
Now, if it doesn't reach, how are they going to survive in those remote areas where
mm,
nothing is grown? You are sitting on a high an altitude which is like 21,000 feet. It's only ice around. How will you survive without ration?
yeah.
So it becomes critical as you keep moving ahead. So everything is critical in this. Only thing is that if a ration goes into somebody's hand, uh, we may lose. We may have to think of alternate, but we are not worried that something bad will happen after that. you know
Mm,
it cannot be used for something to terrorize the people around or something like that.
yeah.
But weapon and ammunitions, if somebody gets a hold of that, then there is a critical, the situation changes, the
Yeah.
complexity changes.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I could see that balance there between, the I guess the most important, right, is the rations there, it sounds like, and then, the most complexity probably around those munitions. So it's a very interesting look into that there. Now tell us a little bit about, you know, what were there any, like, specific projects that happened that, stand out to you, and, was like a real learning moment for you, or, made you realize, like, "Oh, we need to do this a different way," or, is there anything that stands out to you in your career there in the military that's like of note?
I mean, there are couple of them, and to start with, like I would like to say that Indian military is huge. It's the second largest in the world.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
so any process which is we have is generally manual processes.
Mm,
There's a long way to go and become digitized in every nook and corner of the organization. So so related to that, like when I went to DRDO, which is supposed to be technically more savvy, they should be ahead of
mm,
everybody else. But when I reached there and I was handling this whole operations and supply chain role there, including security, so I realized that they are also following the manual process, sitting in the heart of a big towns in the country, and so their warehousing were in more bad shape than what I saw in military. So
oh, wow.
because
Yeah.
and the processes were manual, so the vendors when they supply some of the equipments which is needed for creating the develop the product, so uh, they were manually entered into the system, then manually
Mm,
segregated, and so what was happening was like if suppose at the floor they needed certain equipment or the parts which is required for building equipment. When they give the requirements to these warehouses,
mm,
it used to go for months. I mean, they used to take months to hand over those parts, which were critical, and that way the projects were getting delayed. So when I
mm,
reached there, I realized that there has to be some way where we can improve this whole system. And because coming from military, I had this secondary role of ensuring that all the military projects, I'm there to look after and see that they are pushed and so that they are completed on time, as there are larger requirements waiting for that. So
mm,
uh, when I interacted with a lot of experts in this civil organizations and took their mind how I can improve on that, and I realized that the automation has to be done because like they did not have even the warehouse management system. So
mm,
so I created a plan, went to my boss who was the head of the organization, and then I told him that this is what is happening. I mean, and now this is what I'm looking at. If we automate it is going to help us speed up the process. So he
Yeah.
he liked the idea. Only thing is, he used to always say that because his hands were full, there's so many things happening. There were 36 departments which the organization had within a small structure, and then everybody is in different direction. There's a lot of research work going on. There's a lot of development work going on, and then there is some manufacturing also going on simultaneously of the critical items. So when I came up with this idea, he immediately gave me a go for that. And then I got the budget allotted, and then went for because then I went for the vendors who create those kind of systems, and we
Mm,
gave out this as a project leader. I took on this responsibility and got the developed the system, put it in place. We started with automation first, and then we simultaneously started the segregation of the whole warehouse system. A warehouse which was like a dump of everything.
mm,
So
really?
based on the inputs and the expertise whom I hired, we started putting everything in a in a very like formal way,
Mm,
the way you see in most of the warehouses here, whether you walk up to the
right.
Home Depot or even the Walmart or anyway. So similar way we started segregating everything part by part, equipment by equipment, and we rebuilt the whole warehouse
Mm,
within that. And once it took almost like a year plus, but then by the end of year plus, everything was in place, and we were able to uh, give training to the employees who were handling that. Now the biggest challenge which came during that time was because they were been working in that for almost 20 years plus. They were used
mm,
to the manual because they were happy doing that manually. So when you say
yeah.
why can't we speed up the thing, no, it takes so much. They always had some excuse, and they were not
Mm,
technology savvy also. So I had to put some more employees on that who were young, who were more talented, who were go-getter kind of thing. So train them
mm,
and then put them together. I didn't remove these old employees because I knew that it becomes a sensitive union. It was a unionized environment also.
oh, yeah, okay.
so
Yeah.
and but then I told them, you observe them, you work with them, and you will realize that how it has become made your life so easy after that. And after a couple of
Mm,
days, when they themselves got used to this, they were really happy because then they were getting more free time. Nobody was harping on them that why you are taking so much of time, getting my order and all those things. So they were happy also, and quickly things started moving. So something which used to
mm,
take a month for them to fulfill started happening within a week.
mm,
And even the vendors, when we introduced those RFID scanning corner things, so the moment the vendors used to supply the equipment, we just scan and we know that where it has to go, and immediately it is segregated and put on those shelves. And similarly with the demands, whichever demands are coming, they now exactly knew in the system on which rack where is this part kept. So that picking, packing, and all those things, it speeded up. And my the time I spent there, like 3 years plus, it the same model then was copied to other 52 locations which the DRDO had.
mm,
So it became widespread project. And the second thing, which this same thing which I then did for the military in army, in when I came back after that to military, and I
mhm,
realized that because we had our own internal WMS systems, so
okay.
which were old, slow, and required more manual feeding and all. So I plugged in the RFID scanning system, got the barcoding, those machines installed. It speeded up the thing. And
Mm,
so slowly, even same thing I did in wherever I went in military thereafter. So that helped the because centrally doing the same thing for the complete organization is really a Herculean task in India because of the
mm,
widespread distribution. But
yeah.
in pockets, it is now being implemented and things are improving.
Mm. Very interesting there, and I think that, I guess it's interesting because you think about military organizations, right? You think about organization and like precision and things like that. So to hear like on the back end, like some of these operations where as you said, a bunch of stuff just like dumped in a in a building basically is very interesting to hear. But it's great to hear how you were able to put that together and figure out a way to modernize the operations and bring in some automation and a WMS to be able to take it to the next level and get it to where it needed to be. So I'm curious. I mean, when you look at that, I mean, how does that compare to because I think there's a lot of discussion around the world about how are fulfillment operations progressing and things like that. So I mean, what does aside from the military itself, I mean, in India, what does like the warehousing and fulfillment market or industry look like?
So, India has been growing rapidly over the years, and with the focus of manufacturing node, as
Hmm.
if you look at globally, India has come up as a manufacturing country, and
Yeah.
so it requires a lot of warehousing, transportation, and handling of these equipment, and it becomes critical for the companies who are doing this manufacturing to ensure that whatever they are producing are also reaching the customer or the client for whom they are doing. So there is a trend, like upward trend for the growth of e-commerce in India, and omni-channel retails, which are booming like anything because of the population which is there of
Mm.
120 billion people. I mean,
It's a lot of people.
it's
Yeah.
so is the requirement, and
Mm.
interestingly, like pre-COVID, there was more of store shoppings. Even I
Mm.
prefer going to store and buy things, but during COVID, everything shifted to e-commerce. So
Right.
even the poorest of the person prefers buying it through online, going to Amazon
Mm.
website or any other retail business and buying it online. So that has increased the requirement of having this system in place within
Mm.
country of basically the starting from the warehousing till the last mile delivery. you know so there is a network of people who are working on it. There's a lot of emphasis is given because at the end customer, I would need the product in the way I'm looking at. you know
Mm.
if it is not up to the mark, I'm going to return it back. So that's why it is important for that the organizations or the channels which are handling these, that there's a care taken while transporting these items till the customer. And secondly is like it has become more fast and efficient because of
Mm.
this. What I need today, I need it today and not tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that efficiency has come in, and it has helped in uh, basically increasing the, I would say, the employment, because a lot of population is involved in handling of these. Apart from the systems which are there, whether it is warehousing or the tracking systems and all those things. Then, so there is companies which are adopting omni-channel strategies to handle this, and then also the managing both as online as well as the offline purchases. So you
Mm.
have to have that strategy wherein you are handling both adequately. Then there is and because of these demands online, especially the e-commerce, there is an increase in requirement of the grade A warehousing, and where the high quality, large scale warehousing facilities, which have in fact come up very rapidly in India now, and
Mm.
in the urban or maybe in the remote areas, because like when I went back I think I went back in April to India just for a couple of days. I saw so much of changes. There so many warehouses have come up in particular
Really?
areas. Yeah,
Mm.
and
Interesting.
so. there is a rapid development on in these fronts, and because of that, and also there's a clear-cut focus of the companies or the organizations towards the automation. And sustainability is another factor which
Mm,
even the government, as a country, we are pushing for, and then compliance with the global standards, which as a nation we have pledged as a to have a sustainable systems in place.
mm,
So, every year the government is also coming up with the compliances which the industry has to put in place,
yeah.
and that too at a very short time frame. It's not like, okay, in next 10 years you have to achieve. No, I'll give you an example. Like couple of last year, I heard the transport minister saying that in next 4 or 5 years, most of the vehicles have to shift to EV.
Mm.
So the
4 or 5 years. Wow. Yeah.
so but it now he has given this mandate, but I can see there are a lot of challenges, but at least the industry is now all focused towards that and how to implement that. And
Mm,
similarly is the standards of these what you call it, the pollution standards. They had given the mandate for the countries to adopt like the higher level of standard for the cars emission, and
mm,
which in 1 year they had to implement it, and the government forced the companies to comply with that, and ultimately companies did. All the car manufacturing companies complied with all these kind of compliances, the global compliances when it comes to the car emissions. So
mm,
there is a lot of push by the government. So, and similarly the people and the industry and the customers has also realized it, how it is important for having a sustainable system in place. There's a lot of infrastructure which is being developed by the country, by the government. For example, like Bharat Mala or Sagar Mala, these are the projects which are improving the road and port network across India.
mm,
Then we have like 3PL and 4PL companies which are gaining traction, and which is allowing the businesses to outsource their logistics functions. And
mm,
so and the last thing which I feel is the adoption of the technology, and there's a lot of emphasis is being done by the industry when it comes to AI, IoT, blockchain, and then robotics for the real-time tracking, warehouse automation.
yeah.
So there's a lot of adoption of technology in the system, and that is going up day by day. And
Mm,
so I think in the time to come, I believe as a nation a lot will be achieved by the country at par
mm,
with what the most of the European or even the US has. Its
yeah.
challenges does remain because of the population, and but I think with the right focus, the country will be able to achieve
Mm. Yeah, it's very interesting because I think that you mentioned the pandemic there, and how people got more used to ordering things online, right, and wanting things quickly. Whereas we saw some of that here in the United States too, but then that quickly, right, where you're looking at 2 hour delivery or something like that, kind
that.
of
Yeah,
like was not it kind of like lost the traction here in the United States. But I think in India, it's interesting because the population is so big, it makes that faster delivery, a little more cost effective, or a little more viable because of that, like huge population and population density in some portions of the country too. So it's pretty interesting there. Yeah, what do you think about that?
yeah. I mean, another thing which I found like companies like Amazon, what they have done in India is there's a lot of small scale retailers in India, and
Hmm.
who basically take care of the basic needs of people living around.
Mm,
So they have got registered them to the Amazon. So during COVID, I had seen this shift because these are the people, shops who did not close because the,
mm,
they are the ones who were fulfilling all the requirements on Amazon.
interesting.
So, and the last mile also became taken care of because the Amazon vehicles will come at a particular time. They just pick it up, and it has to just go another, say, maybe 500 or 1 kilometer, and then deliver it to the person who has ordered it. So there's a lot of shift, and also in the planning as compared to rest of the world, because the in India, like the systems are little different in the sense that a retail shop has everything what it needs to take care of the population around. And
Mm.
now that person indirectly got associated to the e-commerce online channel, and he's selling his stuff. So that speeds up the the whole last mile delivery also.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. And it's interesting how, in different different parts of the world, like how different things get leveraged, and how does that fit into what the existing infrastructure looked like, and
Yeah.
how does that evolve, and still kind of like intertwine in some ways. So very interesting to talk to you here today, Ravi, and learn about some of the military side, and some of the complexities there, and some of the challenges, and what you've been able to do there, as well as what's going on in the Indian market too, as well. Now you just recently graduated with your MBA, so congratulations to you. But I guess the question maybe is, what's next, or what are you currently working on?
So right now I'm working for a startup on a
Okay.
on an AI for basically uh, the startup is working on upgrading these systems in small restaurant business. So
Mm,
and also I'm working on my own idea of on supply chain sustainability. So
mm,
I'm working both because I believe that sustainability is key for supply chain in the longer run, and especially when the effect on global, if you say the warming, is more because of the things associated with supply chain. If we are
yeah.
able to have a plan or basically the visibility of the complete end-to-end supply chain, I think we will be able to we'll be in a better position to work on resolving some of the critical issues related to the pollution, or maybe I'm looking for the long-term sustainability. So with those thought process, I'm also working on one of my startup idea, and still in the ideation stage. I'm just gathering the data, and then I'll planning to go forward with that. And side by side, I'm also working with on a startup which is giving me also a different perspective on the like how the restaurant businesses they need support this kind of automation and support what this current startup is doing.
Mm. Yeah, interesting, interesting. Okay, well, we'll definitely be looking forward to learning more about that as it develops, and seeing what you're up to there. So, really appreciate you coming on the show today, Ravi, and it's a pleasure to speak with you. If people want to get in touch with you, learn more from you, what's the best way to do that?
I think I'm available on LinkedIn, and as Ravindra Pandey can be searched on. And also, I'm my email ID is pandey.ravindra@gmail.com. Anytime, anywhere, I'll be there.
All right, great. And we'll definitely put that link to your LinkedIn in the show notes, as well as at thenewwarehouse.com, so people can easily find it. So, Ravi, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for the time and also giving me an opportunity to speak to the larger audience and give my views. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesAreSexy.com and get your own.